links already. So, all right, guys, I meant to give these guys a countdown. I did not give them a countdown. Instead of hitting the countdown button, Gov and Donnie, I hit the go live button. So we're gonna do it live, and I do apologize. Hopefully next week we'll have a better transition. But speaking of transitions, because we are professionals, last week we gave you a more realistic season preview forecasting. Tonight I thought it would be interesting as I actually get our screens up and running now, but I thought it'd be interesting to do a DFS kind of forecast of just things that you guys are looking forward to, maybe things that Donnie learned from year one. Because remember, if you guys don't know, if you guys haven't been following us, Donnie, for the first time, played a full season of DFS content. So we'll get what he thinks going into another full season of NFL, some NBA takes, some of those sort of things. And then Gov's always got some good evergreen content for us. So why don't you guys take it away if you got anything to start the show with while I set up here?
I was about to say, we can start with Wembanyama. Like I didn't get to watch most of that game. I'll admit that. I forget where I was.
Well, okay. That's okay for me because
those are good. Like that's a good, solid game. Like you can't hate on that. Like that shows like he deserved to be the first round pick. He deserved to be the number one pick.
Game. I mean, I know statistically, I think it was like 2 of 18. I saw the flashes that we've been watching for. Like, his handles were working. Yes, the shots weren't falling, and you wanted to be more efficient. But that will come.
You got to let him play and get through that.
But see, I told you we were going to steer this to a DFS forecast type thing. Do you actually think like the efficiency helps him or hurts his DFS numbers? Because I actually think a player like Wamby could actually do better in DFS if he, not to say you want him shooting low at 3 of 15 or whatever he was, like that might be a little low, but like when he is doing everything, I think it could be good. So like, even if he misses a shot, some of those missed shots are going to be offensive rebounds for his advantage. You know, some of those like hustle, almost. I'm looking for the word like Bambi on ice kind of things, where it's like, yeah, it was a mistake, but he's doing it at full speed, and he's such a unicorn that even his mistakes end up getting you extra steals and blocks and just like hustle stats. I don't know. I think it could be good that he's not totally efficient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah. Like, and he's a rookie. Like, I don't expect efficiency.
Right.
I was never looking for efficiency. I'm looking for like what Donnie's pointing out. Like, do the handles work? Can he get into a flow? Is he able to take shots? Like, does he work in an offense? Those are the things I want to see. The efficiency will come once he if he's efficient now, is he still going to be efficient when he actually has his NBA body? Which, like, I know he was playing in France. It's not like he was playing in college, but like NBA is a different beast. The amount
he said he didn't know what he was doing out there.
Right. I guess that's what I mean by the Bambi effect, though. Like, isn't it kind of good that he's like Inspector Gadget with his body right now, trying to figure things out? Like, I think that actually might lean itself to more fantasy kind of goodness.
He could have some crazy spike games.
Right. Like maybe he gets 2 blocks because he doesn't know how to block properly, where if he would have blocked with technique, he gets, he obviously just tips it to himself, but because he tries to swat it in the third row, more defensive opportunities. Like weird things like that can happen. We see it a lot in the NFL, for example. A quarterback that's not totally efficient is actually a very good quarterback. Blake Bortles, for example, was a lot like that in DFS a couple of years ago. Jameis Winston, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where it actually could benefit him.
I'm definitely, I think there's the best players are going to have good fantasy nights. I think Wemby's going to be that wild card for us this year. I highly doubt we don't have, he's, in my opinion, probably going to end up being Maybe not the best, but at best case scenario, the second best probably. But some nights he will look like the best guy out on the court for the Spurs.
Depends on the team he's playing.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's a lot of teams that he could probably end up being the best guy out on the court. But I don't expect him to be that right away.
But he's going to have nights like that.
Oh yeah, he'll have flashes. Comes out, and we haven't seen sort of what Logan's saying. We haven't seen the full range of what he can do at a high level in the NBA.
I don't think we're gonna see it for years, though.
Right.
I don't think.
But if in the first 2 or 3 years he flashes it by being solid, consistent rebounding, efficient scoring becomes more efficient. All of a sudden, boom, there's an 8-block game. All of a sudden, he keeps doing that. Boom, he has a 16-assist game or something like that because you didn't realize he has
6 threes.
Yeah, something like that. All of a sudden, he puts up a 50-pointer mostly on threes because you just kept leaving him wide open. Those random things will start happening and be like, okay, he's actually really, 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 really good. He's just sort of being the cog that makes the Spurs move because that's what Tim Duncan was.
And see, Gov, this is honestly, I truly believe this. I think DFS makes us, but maybe not better. That's not what I was going to say. Was it makes you think about the game in a unique way, and I actually think that benefits you when you look at prospecting, when you look at younger players, because it's a lot of forecasting, right? And let's say Wamby's price is going to be so high the first night, right? Because they just know that people want to play him. They know either one way or the other, they know that you're going to want to buy into the hype, right? But maybe a smart guy like me and you is going to play Keldon Johnson, because we're the Spurs efficiency as a team is going to go way up. So we play, a Sohan or we play a Keldon Johnson because we know, hey, they're going to get easier buckets because this guy's taking pressure off. It's almost if you can't afford Jamar Chase and NFL DFS, you play T. Higgins, because he's going to see the one-on-one coverage. And that's the kind of Wamby effect I think that even from a deeper NFL or a deeper NBA outlook, you could even start to look at. It's okay, maybe you can't afford him every night, but what does he do for the team? Giannis had a very similar, effect. His effect, he affected Middleton. He got holiday shots. So I don't it's very unique in that way.
I agree. And we really won't know what he. Like I said, I think the first few years will just be figuring out where he actually fits, what his true strengths are in the league. Because there will be some things that he can do well that can still be guarded by players that he just I can't rely on this. No matter how well I can do it, there's a lot of guys who can defend it, and I just can't rely on that. He'll have to learn that kind of stuff and become more efficient. That's what Dirk did. He's comparing him to another big man like that. Dirk realized it's I can stand and shoot the threes, but they'll run and just try to block threes and not give me good shooting lanes. Yeah. So if I learn how to drive, step back, put my knee in their face and hit that little step back 18-footer, unstoppable. And so he perfected that. Wembanyama's probably going to need to perfect 1 or 2 offensive moves like that eventually. And just to fit in offense. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't know how deep you want to go in player takes, but let's even assume or let's even associate this back to an NBA DFS outlook. There's so much we don't know about the league yet. What if Damian Lillard doesn't get traded? That changes your outlook on Scoot Henderson, who obviously is the number one rookie for the Portland Trailblazers. Now, if Dame does get traded, that's obviously going to have an impact on his fantasy outlook. But obviously, then Henderson becomes the gold mine. He becomes the Kate Cunningham. He becomes the golden goose. And maybe you don't play him right away, but he's the guy you play, sub all-star game Gov. And that's
Right.
where, like, as an NBA DFS guy, like night to night is going to change, and you got to be up on it. It's like that's what I find such a fascinating point about DFS NBA too, Donnie, and you just getting into it. So it's really fun to get your perspective. It's like we have long-term perspectives, we have short-term perspectives as like what we think of the player, what we think of the team, how we think the team's going to gel with the new coach. But then there's all that like NFL or not NFL, sorry. There's that DraftKings influence where it's like, okay, what's his price tonight? Is this the night he's going to go off, or is he going to go off in 2 nights from now? Because the NBA is such a rapid, like night after night sport, it's not the same as like NBA or even golf, which you set your lineup on Thursday and then you got a whole weekend of adjustments. Like night to night changes very quickly. Donnie, you didn't play a lot of NBA DFS. Do you think you'll play more of it this year, or less, or like? Are you looking at playing best ball? Like
it depends on my free time, honestly.
Yeah. Let's assume you have the same free time as you like. You basically have the same schedule as you had last year with us. Like you're on, but we covered some NBA, we did some best ball, but we didn't cover it as deep as football. Do you think you'd want to play more or less?
I think we should do more NBA this year.
I'd be down with that.
I would
I was doing like everyday content on Twitch for NBA. So like if you guys had time, I'd have no problem like doing more, like even if it was just like sweats at the end of the night to watch through.
Even if we don't have a lineup, I feel like there's enough content to talk about.
Yeah. And to be fair, like there's a lot of like NBA is notorious for the late swapping and the late news and everything happening. So like even if like one of us got a lineup in at 7 and we could all be like tweaking it and looking at it as news comes in throughout like an 8 o'clock show.
And
like I would love to do more NBA stuff. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll totally be a nerd. Okay. So I get a promotion. I got a job. I'm feeling pretty good. Not only does my DFS bankroll gonna bump up because I just think like I've invested so much of the time into my friends Donnie and Gov and different strategies and being able to utilize that and make a profit and have some fun. Also, if I'm gonna invest all this time and all this strategy and try to do a podcast and find different avenues. One of those is like making sure that I have NBA League Pass. Like that was part of it for me. Making sure I had NBA League Pass this year. Getting MLB. I'm going to be getting Red Zone for the first time because it's on YouTube and widely available. Having all of these platforms available to me has made me want to play more DFS, not less, but in a different kind of strategic way. Speaking on that, Gov, why hasn't DraftKings or even FanDuel in a different capacity, maybe they can call it something else, why haven't they invested in NBA Rainmakers yet? Do you think that's coming? Do you think NBA is like, are they afraid of losing too much money?
Oh, that's entirely because of the licensing deal. They don't own the license. So NBA sold their license to the NFT stuff so rare long before Rainmakers was made. They might make a push for it when that deal comes up, but there's literally nothing they can do while So Rare has that contract. That's all from the NBA players side and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That's the biggest contention, right? But I also think
that's probably the only thing. Like if there wasn't a specific deal, I'm sure the NBA would work with DraftKings.
But of all the sports, don't you think the NBA would be the best for the players when it comes to best ball, so they would actually lose money? Like the NFL is different because the NFL prices their cards so high, for example.
Oh, okay. You said best ball. You meant Rainmakers. Okay,
I meant Rainmakers.
Yeah. You're good. I was like, that sentence didn't make sense. Oh, but if you switch those out, it makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Right. So because Rainmakers is like you own it like a stock. Like think of it like Jock Market or any other
There's weekly contests you can enter them in, or you can be buying and selling to prepare yourself for those weekly contests. Whereas the NBA would be much more daily.
Yeah. So it would benefit the player, and I'm just afraid it might benefit us too much where DraftKings doesn't get into it. But
the problem is like daily stuff is hard to do. That's why they haven't done like MLB they could get the rights for.
Yeah.
But they haven't done that because as much as there would be games every day and content every day, to do daily Rainmaker stuff, it requires a lot of money invested into prize pools for contests.
Exactly.
Which they just don't do. Honestly, Rainmakers fits the weekly stuff. Like I think the three that they started with, football, PGA, MMA, those are the best ones to start with. Ideally though, like I don't like the whole Madden thing where you need new cards every year. I would prefer it like definitely have a mechanic where you do need new cards, but like don't make it where you need your entire new set of stuff every year. That's just a little like now they're just trying to grab money from guys who are willing to invest tens of $1,000s into playing these contests every week. So you're catering to those specific guys. If you really want to make it something new that people would want to use, then you need to have some utility outside of one season for the cards. Like PGA kind of makes sense because the season's an entire year. But like with NFL, I would just be like I would prefer it. Like if it were me, I would say the cards are good every year. But if a guy changes teams, you have to get a new card. So like you can't like right now, if you had Aaron Rodgers from last year, you'd have to get a new one for his Jets team. You couldn't use your last year Green Bay Aaron Rodgers. But that doesn't mean you still couldn't use your Justin Jefferson from last year.
Yeah.
Because he's still on the same team. Like I would love it to have some sort of utility like that, personally. That like it gives because like right now, I don't even know what the value of last year's cards would be. I kind of want to just burn all of my stuff to get new cards for this year.
I was say, isn't that kind of a benefit though that you don't know? Because it's almost like if you knew that, I don't know, I feel like it would jade you for the next year, kind of what you're saying. Like, I almost feel like it has to be just a reset.
Well, I think it would give the cards utility during the season. Like right now, no one's doing anything with NFL cards.
Right.
Like for the last 3 or 4 months, nothing. No one would be doing anything with any cards at all, even with the major events happening. But if you know the cards from this year are good, now people are more willing to buy and sell their Algiers when Bijan is getting drafted. They're more willing to do stuff with their Kamaras, with Gibbs. Like the draft happens, rookies get picked. That affects other guys, and now their cards have like I said, it's a stock market. But if you're going to like stop everything and have to restart it back in August every year and just kill it from February to August, it's like, I just think, especially with football, you're just killing 5 months of what could be marketplace activity, which is part of where they're going to make their, like, they're not going to make a shit ton of money selling packs and putting out money towards contests. They need 10% off of every market transaction like they get.
Right. Because budget guys like me and you, we might only have $10 to spend. We want to make sure we go to the marketplace and we get that $10 quarterback of good value. We cannot afford the risk of like, oh, we're going to buy a pack. And
I'm going to just buy the $20 pack. Oops, I didn't get a quarterback in it. Fuck.
Right. Now I can't play. And they want you to play. Now, let's get Donnie back in here because Now, Donnie, please answer honestly. Are we talking over your head right now?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that a problem?
No.
Does that make you want to play it more?
No, because I still feel like I'm just getting the grasp of everything else.
Well,
I was going to say, do you feel any more confused than you did when we described DFS to you last year?
Rainmakers is, I mean, when you bring in like ultimate team stuff, like things like that, I can kind of figure out what's going on. I can piece it together.
Right. That's why I try to
confusing.
think. Like you understand Madden Ultimate Team, where you have a set of
Yeah.
cards to build your team. Basically, you're doing that, but you're building out a DFS lineup.
Go off, Gov, because honestly, this might seem confusing to a lot of our subscribers, but I'm willing to go there
Yeah.
because I've looked over YouTube. There is nothing on Rainmakers that talks about it in an organic way where it's like some of the shit is confusing. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to be like, this is new. Explain this to me like I'm 2 years old. That's
See,
okay.
I try to equate it to the things that everyone does. So, like, most people have played a Madden Ultimate Team, a FIFA Ultimate Team, something like that. And that's where you understand, like, you're buying these, like, player cards that you will use as the stock for your game. And our game is DFS. So, like, we will buy player cards and use them as our guys to build out our DFS lineups. Instead of having a salary cap, we just have whatever we have in our stock portfolio, essentially. That's essentially how it is. Instead of having a salary cap to build out a lineup, we will build up our own portfolio of players to build out lineups. Like he's bringing up how it looks in PGA. In PGA, you have a bunch of golfers. You will then go to the contests and build out a 5-man lineup with your portfolio of golfers.
Mm-hmm.
Once you put a card into a lineup, you can't use that card in anything else. It's locked in that lineup. So it's not like it has one lineup utility.
Can you trade and auction them, or
Yeah, you can.
There is a marketplace for buy and sell. There are auctions that come up occasionally for higher end cards. Like when a guy wins a tournament, he might get a new edition of his card that you can get, as you might think in Madden Ultimate Team, where every week the top performers might get a new card you can earn. So it's essentially like that. Like that's the best. Anyone who's played those, that's the best equate to it. Is you're going to be collecting your team to build out better and better lineups throughout the year. And as we build these lineups, we'll win more money or more packs and more cards and build out our portfolio. But there's also the buy and sell market to it. Like, and there's usually this in Madden where like there will be cards that you can buy, people are selling if you have the whatever token currency there is that may take actual money to build up. You may have to like sell off a whole bunch of crappy cards for nothing just to build up your stuff. But there is an actual stock, and that's going to be the fun part. That's the part where you could actually make a little money, is like if we can get ahead on some trends, especially since we're looking at the schedule. We know these guys are going to be useful 2 or 3 weeks from now. We have, let's say, like, and you can buy multiples of guys. So let's say we have 3 of a guy. We know he's going to be useful in 2 or 3 weeks. Or let's say we don't have any of a guy. We know he's going to be useful in 2 or 3 weeks. We may buy 1 or 2 cheaply, put one on the market for a slightly higher price, keep one for us to play, make a little bit of profit, and still increase our portfolio. Like, we'll be able to look at those sort of things. And then, of course, like, if we have time on Sundays to react to the games, because that's the best time. You see an injury happen, that's the best time to go to the marketplace and, like, buy or sell certain guys.
Well, let's bring it back into my realm for a second.
Right. Ask your question.
I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to, like, the NBA in-season tournament stuff. I haven't read
I
too
was looking
much
at some
on
of
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of info on it either.
I think it's all of November, Tuesday through Friday, except for election week or election day on Tuesday. And then the championship is early December. In the championship and the playoffs for that. Does that affect how you guys would approach going into a DraftKings lineup or anything?
It would definitely affect best ball for this year, because best ball usually only goes
because it doesn't.
All-Star break.
It's considered basically a regular season game until the championship and the playoffs.
Look,
So the normal November regular season games are just going to count towards this sort of tournament bracket.
Yes.
Now, see,
are they just going to make the guys like play extra games at that point? Like, so, like, you play all the
Yeah.
games in November. Like, that's where I got to read up. It's like, so
Yeah.
now are there going to be like 4 teams that make the playoffs and have to play like 6 extra games throughout the season? Or how does that work? Do they play
Well,
in
it's
those
only going to
playoff
be.
games?
I know they have to go to Vegas for the championship, like the playoffs and the championship tournament.
Right.
So it's extra travel. It's, I don't really get how it's going to work exactly. There's not much of a bonus, it seems like, for the players. And I mean, the championship, every player on the team gets a $500,000 bonus. I don't think that moves the
Everyone
needle
gets
for a
veteran-
Jason
yeah,
Tatum.
that's a veteran's minimum. Like, it's nothing.
But those low end players,
Even in the NBA, the average salary in the NBA this coming season is going to be like 12 and change.
Look,
Like I don't think. Now I'll give you that. There's going to be guys on Phoenix who barely make $500K.
Bobo coming to Phoenix, baby.
but in all honesty, can I just get
That's a fucking steal.
It looks like it's going to happen, but
it is a steal. Now, but Gov, I'm sure you play as well because, I mean, we are just basketball fiends. Like, we are the sports we love, we love them, completely and utterly. That's true for Donnie as well. So I'll just speak to, like, I love DFS when it comes to the Olympics, right? That's a tournament. That kind of like it's a different portion of the year. Typically, players aren't used to it, and like I do think like that's going to have a DFS fatigue or like a nuance, and so it's going to affect the way we play for the positive and the negative. We're going to be able to make money off of this tournament, Go or Donnie, if you play more this year. But unless it means something, like to me, the tournament has to have a value because otherwise it's an all-star game with no incentive. Like it's just it's a circus, it's a charade, it's nothing concrete, it's nothing, But if they have I truly think the tournament should replace the playing game format, right? If you win the tournament, you automatically become like a play-in type team for the playoff seeding. That's truly what I think. It has to mean something. Otherwise, what's the point?
yeah, I mean, there's going to be contract incentives at the end, I'm sure, because there's going to be because they have at the end of the season they'll nominate, or maybe it's at the end of the tournament, I don't know, all tournament teams and things like that. So that's got to somehow eventually affect how you can make money. Same things with all NBA teams. You know what I mean?
That means jack shit though.
No, but it means something to the players if you can get paid more by playing well in the tournament.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a significant amount of money, though. Like I admit, the money would probably be the one thing I would think because I can't see why anyone.
Let's say somebody makes 3 all tournament teams and that makes them eligible for a max contract. That's a pretty big deal. I'm sorry.
I don't think.
I don't know. If it makes you eligible for a max, I'm sorry, that's a big difference.
If it's gonna act like that kind of stuff, like the kind of clauses that they have for being on NBA first teams and stuff, then yes, that might be enough incentives for some players, but those players will literally the only reason at that point would be for money. So the guys that are NBA in-season all-team 3 years in a row, those guys just want the money.
Now, see, I'm with Bill Simmons on this, and I'm not with Bill Simmons on a lot of things. He said, here's the thing, is you're going to incentivize, the 7th string guys, or, the 6th stringers, the 6th man of the year kind of candidates to play for money. But, the veterans that put some.
No, hold on. I'm stopping you there. 6 men of the year is a starter. I'm sorry. They're playing 30 minutes. That it's not incentivizing them.
That's the thing. I'm trying to think who right now, even with that, who would get incentivized. Honestly,
So it needs to be something bigger. The point right now, what they're giving this season, from what we know, is not enough. Like we're gonna have Kawhi sitting out a whole tournament because he's gonna be worried about his big toenail being chipped off.
As he should, though, because like LeBron James is playing for a legacy. So unless this tournament speaks to that legacy, then
he's not going to care. Yeah, the Lakers aren't going to care if they're playing just for the title.
Right. Now, if that's a playoff seeding, if that's a if that's a game 7 kind of like Western Conference, however you want to incentivize, it's just got to mean more to veteran players. Otherwise, your product is not going to be good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I don't see the reasoning for this unless you give them
now
like a real good incentive, like
Bill
either
Simmons
games
said,
off or good money.
Yeah, that's what Bill
like
Simmons
20
said.
mil to the winning team to be split between the 10 players. Like that would be something worthwhile.
Well, it would be 13, but yeah.
Well, Gov, that's what Bill Simmons said. If you want to really get to the players without like making it such an incentive-based like rewards process, why don't you just shave off 15 games? Why don't you say instead of 82 games, we're playing 60?
It's just like a second All-Star break. That's what it really should end up being.
Like we're playing 70 games, not 82. But you have to play in the tournament.
Yeah, make it an early season tournament. Have everyone play like 20 games in October to like get warmed up and get like sort of acclimated. Then have a giant, like even if you don't want every team, maybe figure out some way to let either the best 2 teams or the worst 2 teams or something opt out. Or however, I guess with the NBA it's 30, so like you have to cut it to 24 to make it even, really.
Does this incentivize players to take less money now? Like maybe like somebody who had a chance to sign, 2-year $9 million contract, and they're going to a championship contender. Maybe they sign a 2-year $7 million contract because they figure, okay, I'm going to make another $1 million anyway from possibly winning this championship, and then I'm going to make incentives for winning the actual championship possibly.
Yeah, it could again. Like once you see how
it could have minuscule effects like that.
Once you see how it works, it will have effects on contracts and stuff like that. But like, you got to figure out a system for it that actually works. And it's like, if I were trying to implement a tournament, I would say yes. The first thing is you need to just like cut out like if you want. I don't mind counting those games towards your record. But you have to like figure out a way to like weight it or give it some stuff like in college. So like, let's say you do the tournament, you have everyone play in it in November. So like everyone does 20 games, then everyone plays in the tournament, and the teams that actually have to go through the tournament and have to play more games, they're going to get basically the entire month of February off instead of just that first week.
Well, here's the thing.
You got to figure out how to give them that extra time off.
No,
and like that would be a good time to do it.
Here's what I'm saying:
right before the ramp up, extra time, like that would not be a bad move.
It's gonna be. It looks like it's gonna be like 2 games for the playoffs. If you make it to the playoffs, it's gonna be 2 games, right? So, here's my idea for them. Let's just say, if you are in the final 4 or whatever, and then you make the play-in, you are excluded from the play-in. You don't have to play your play-in game. You automatically pass through. Now, maybe it doesn't come into effect all the time, but, it could be something there. I don't know.
Well, here's what I want to do now to come full circle on this. Like, we mentioned at the beginning, Donnie, about would you play more NBA, right? Or would you play Rainmakers this new format of DFS now that you kind of know the formality of playing your first full season of DFS? If I told you that, like, hey Donnie, you're going to join this podcast and whatever I make from the podcast, I'll give you, but anything we win from Rainmakers or DFS content, that's all my money. You guys would have far less incentive to help me build a good lineup. Sure, we have a lot of fun building lineups. We have a lot of cool, innovative ideas. And part of, even to bring it back to the first topic with Wembyamba, is like part of that process is watching Donnie play for the first time and seeing his unique ideas and like mistakes even, or like, being able to. But if I was like, hey Donnie, if you win money on this dollar lineup, the single entry, I'm gonna take all of it, and I'll give you 2%. Like that's gonna change the way the attention, the motivation you put into DFS lineups. So it's going to impact. It's going to impact the NBA season. It's going to, like, Rainmakers is going to become bigger. Sports books are going to become bigger. All of this impacts not only the sport but fantasy. We see it with the NFL players with gambling. Like all of the stuff happens, and then we're left to pick up the scraps. I don't necessarily think it's a good or bad thing, this tournament. It's got to mean something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they got to do it right. Like let's at least see if they can do it right. Like I'll give them the benefit
I just
of the doubt.
don't see. Yeah, I just don't see what this really does.
But
Flying the team out to Vegas, I just.
That makes me think like you need to like are you expecting them to just like treat it like an all-star break?
Yeah.
Right.
Like what are you expecting from this? Like we'll see.
Well, I think that to come full circle, like there's a reason we're talking about Rainmakers, and we were going to do a show a couple minutes ago and it didn't happen. But me and Gov were talking off camera, and we're like, one of the reasons I want to cover Rainmakers is because no one else is doing it at the level that I think we can do it, right? And part of the reason the NBA wants to do this tournament is they think it's going to bring them money. They think it's going to bring them a viewership element that they're not getting.
Well, they wouldn't put up 500,000 cash prize to the winners, and not counting the extra incentives for the people who get. Like
100%, Donnie. And like Donnie, if I said, hey, we're gonna do Rainmakers this year, Donnie, and you're gonna get something out of it, sure. I'm sure you're like, hey, you know what, Logan's a good guy. I love hanging out with Gov. I have no problem, giving 30 minutes. But if I'm like, hey, Gov gets 80% of the winnings and you only get 20, Donnie, it's gonna impact how you build a lineup, how much time you put into it. Because if you're like, hey, Gov gets 80% of the winnings, so if he wants, a DeAndre Hopkins over a Miles Sanders, which is totally opposite of what Gov would like, that's why I use that example. It's like you already know that we're gonna weight his perspective over yours, and that's the thing. And that's the thing with the playing thing too. It's like, sure, if Kyle Kuzma is the best player that commits to this tournament, or like a really young player that might be exciting like a Kate Cunningham, but we don't get any all-star level players, it's going to impact the influence or the impact of this thing. It just will.
Yeah. So, back to the whole thing about the NBA making money on this. Just the winners alone, it's going to be $6.5 million that they're giving out, just to the winners. Well, because 13 players per the roster, 500,000 per player.
Let's be honest.
So they're forking up a lot of money for this tournament to work.
A lot of money to you, though. But
not a lot. Yeah, but still, $10 million into something that's you're testing that you're not sure is going to work is nothing to fork at either.
For example, I don't think Gov has any problem when you mention this. If you do, call me out, Gov. I know you don't have a problem doing that. Me and you, a couple years ago, really grinded Yahoo DFS, right?
Yeah, when it was first starting up, yep.
Because it was first starting up, the prize pools were very small, Donnie.
They had a lot of good like matches and stuff, double your money like on deposits and that. So it was a good startup spot.
Right, but the information, to Gov's point, was so far behind. So like, say we knew Russell Westbrook was going to be out, right? And then like Reggie Jackson would be like minimum price over on Yahoo. Like minimum.
Too often they would just like have people misprice them, especially in the first year.
Totally bad mispricing, right? Just
even before news, it's like, wait, this guy's not even like this guy should be a fucking $18 and he's 11,
Right.
which is basically minimum price.
Egregiously bad price. But the prize pools were so small at the time that like the bigger people that we communicated with within our Discord channels, Donnie, just didn't. It wasn't enough to get them out of bed. And it wasn't to say that Yahoo wasn't worth it to them. It just like for them the incentive wasn't high enough. It's not to say that me and Gov were like these poor guys, but at our budget range, at what we were trying to accomplish at the time, it made sense. It didn't make sense for this other subgroup that we knew.
Right. And they did start like looking at it occasionally.
Right. Because they were like, oh wait,
there is money to be won here.
And it's because of that consistency. And that's the thing with the NBA playing or anything. If we can win consistently, then you have something. Like you were saying with Rainmakers, if we can get on a quarterback that no one sees coming, if like I don't know, like
try to grab a couple trends early.
Right. Andy Dalton comes out and plays like the best football of his career and just like has a Jacoby Brissett kind of impact. And like we grab him for like 30 cents and then he's producing like a $10.
I'm thinking more to compare to last year. If you would have grabbed some Geno Smith early,
right,
he would have been worth a good penny by the time you got to week 13, 14.
But maybe that's not your game, Gov. Maybe you're not the grinder. Like maybe that's just not you. And you know the main guys and you pay for NFL Sunday ticket and you want that Sunday sweat, but you don't have the time to grind day after day. So you're just going to play in the bigger contest, right? With smaller people, bigger contests, you got to get less right. I think that's kind of this. It's like I'm interested in the tournament. It's not only got to have good players, it's got to mean something. Because even if you get LeBron James, you can't just have LeBron James be the token LeBron James. He can't just come out like it's Summer League and take a bow at center court and then walk off.
Yeah, you need, there's got to be some incentive for guys to try. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just adding load onto them that they're not really getting paid for. Especially if the games are meaningless towards the regular season, towards your record.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone already has a goal of trying to win the title every year. You adding another minor goal in the middle of the season is probably not going to affect most teams.
100%. Donnie, anything else you want to mention on this? Because I do think it's a fun topic. We can kind of bridge it into another topic I have here before we close up.
Not really.
Personally, I think this tournament is probably going to end up being the show off of the mid seeds. I think it would be nice to do something like you're saying, where if you win the tournament or get into the finals, and then you're a play-in team, you get an automatic, first win. Let's say you're the 9 or the 10 seed, but you won the play-in tournament that they have that they're putting on. Well, now you're automatically win that game, and sorry, whoever else was the 9 or 10 seed is gone. And you automatically get to play the 8 seed for the final. Or the winner of the 7-8 seed game.
Right.
Because it's more likely that the teams that are going to be playing well and into this play-in game and are willing to play their guys during this are going to be your mid-range teams. From this year, it wouldn't be the Lakers. It wouldn't have been
the Pistons.
No, I don't even think that.
No. I'm coming this year though.
Maybe
the Raptors.
This year, I'm trying to think. I don't know if they're actually going to be in this. I think the Raptors probably would have been in it last year, but I'm thinking it's this year. If I'm just looking at last year and I look at the playoff seeding from last year and everything, I'm thinking the teams that would have done well and tried in this thing would have been your Clevelands, would have been your Clippers,
Thunder.
Would have been your Sacramento.
Well, I'm thinking young teams too. So yeah, the Thunder would be perfect.
Yeah, but the Thunder weren't. But the problem is the Thunder weren't really good. I'm discounting the teams that I think aren't actually going to be good. Ideally, if you want this playing to work, you need good basketball teams to be playing their guys and playing good stuff. I don't think you get the Denver Nuggets. I don't think you get Milwaukee and Boston doing that. I don't think Philly plays their hardest with their veteran guys doing that. But could you get Cleveland and the Knicks and the Heat and the Raptors playing their hardest in this? Yes. Could you get a Sacramento and like last year's Phoenix or Milwaukee or Memphis playing, or not Milwaukee, Minnesota or Memphis playing really well in this? Yes. Those are the teams that I think would play well. Your probably back-end playoff teams to your play-in teams. Like those are the teams that would actually play well in this tournament, I think, because they would be the ones trying to get a good start and play well early so that they have good position.
Here's a crazy idea. What if you incorporated the WNBA into the tournament? And in a way where it's like one that you get like almost like they do the playoffs, where it's like one that you get the Western Conference, the other night you get the Eastern Conference, or like they do with the Olympics, where they like play. So then, because the NBA is always trying to find ways to incorporate or like grow the game, or like you do like golf, where you have like a USA versus like an international team, like just different ways to like,
I think the
or
NBA is not willing to fork up that much money for the WNBA.
Yeah,
not that much more.
And I also don't think they do a Ryder Cup playing thing. Like, I think that one would actually be interesting if you did like a mini like international versus Team USA kind of like game,
or
like maybe replace the All-Star game with something like that. Like instead of doing the All-Star game, we're going to do the best of the USA team versus the best of the team. Like anybody who would play in another country, you can play on the international team at the All-Star break.
Right.
And then anyone who would play on Team USA, you play there. And so you would get sort of like an Olympic team preview.
That's kind of just the FIBA World Cup, though, no?
Yeah, but it's sort of. But even in that, like, it'd be a little better because, like, in the FIBA World Cup, all these different guys would be playing on different countries versus the USA team. Whereas I'm going to put Giannis's Greek ass next to Wembanyama's Frenchiness, and you get that on the same team against LeBron, AD, Tatum.
And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just thinking a lot of what works in usually nationalism does play well with sports.
I think with the influx of more international players, like like you're saying in FIBA, you wouldn't get a team with Joker and Luka and that all on the same team. But if we had that as like our All-Star break team instead of like East versus West, do the USA versus the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or you do like a Rising Stars against like retiree players. You just want to do it in a way that's like entertaining, but also still motivating. And
I'm interested to see what they do because, like, I think they'll put out an entertaining product. I just don't know how the players are going to react and how it's actually going to fit with the season.
Now, I want to keep this like we've moved this along pretty well, but like I would love to do some quick hitters, some things we might have missed. Could you guys give me about 10 more minutes?
Sure, that's fine.
So then if something pops, then we can talk about it. But if nothing, so it's almost like you can take this topic or you can pass it. And we'll see how many we can get through. Donnie, what's the one player, if we were to play Rainmakers, which obviously we discussed, so you would get them for the whole year. What's the one player right now tonight with 5 minutes to think about it, 2 seconds to think about it? What's the one player that you're like, I want this card. We'd want to play him all year. Like, who's that one guy for you?
If I'm just thinking top end, I'm thinking Joker or Luka.
No, I'm saying for NFL.
NFL.
Oh, NFL.
We don't know.
This coming season, we don't know if they'll ever have NBA for Rainmaker. Like they probably will in a year or two, but like we're talking like upcoming NFL season. We're gonna start building a portfolio. Who's the one guy we need to have that we would want to play every week or every time we could play him?
Justin Jefferson, probably.
Interesting.
I'm not against that. I would have gone quarterback. Yeah.
See, I'm weird like the I factor in price, so I automatically think of like what rookies or what undervalued guys are there. So, but it's funny that you go for like high end, like we have to get a legit start. So I do think.
See, and I don't hate on that. Like, I was thinking more quarterback just because of like strategic positional scarcity. We're gonna play 2 or 3 wide receivers every week in our lineup, but we only get 1 running back and 1 quarterback. So I'd want to definitely have a premium quarterback to play every week. I would have probably said either Mahomes or Burrow or.
See, I was thinking that, but when I think like Mahomes, we've had a couple issues where he's been kind of dinged up, and then I'm thinking other quarterbacks that are top tier, and most of them fantasy wise are going to be runners. So if I'm going to take someone who's going to be running anyway, I'm going to want to take somebody who's going to be getting hit by corners, not linebackers and D linemen. You know,
Right?
Can I ask a tough question, but I also want us to have some fun with it? Gov, do you think Donnie will make us, like, looking at Donnie's second season as a DFS player, do you think he'll make better decisions or worse decisions or about the same? Like, what do you think when you think about Donnie as a year 2 DFS player? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think like we already were able to build pretty good lineups. So like the process is there. I think with another year under our belt, like you got a feel for watching the games. So like getting a feel for how to build lineups. Like I think we'll do better. Like I would always say I think we're going to do better.
Now, either one of you can take this. I'm going to have NFL Sunday ticket for the first time ever in my life. So I'm going to be able to watch all the games. Now they have the 4 screen, so I can put 4 games on one screen. Do you think that's going to hurt my DFS game or help it? Because I'm actually worried it's going to hurt it.
It might. Like if it gives you too much of a bias and you can't take in the info, it could hurt. But that's one of the reasons why I think Donnie will do better is like he's had the whole year to sort of compress it all and decompress it through the off season. So I think coming back in after a few months, like you do look at it a little differently the second time around.
Do you think like having this show and a format and like a structure and a comfortability with each other is going to make our lines better for next year? Like, I'm truly excited to build like a portfolio with you guys. Like, we can call it Rainmakers, you can call it whatever you want. Like, the idea that we can set aside $50 and be like, Donnie, how do you want to build a team with $50? You know,
we'll look at the marketplace. We'll see where do we want to spend this week. Do we want to buy another $20 guy? Right. Do we want to just fill it out with a bunch of cheap dudes that we know will do well all year or something? Like, how do we want to do it?
Or even, I mean, Donnie, I feel like wants to talk about basketball. It's like, even if we're like, hey, we're basketball, we're going to build more lineups this year, you know? And so, like, every Monday we get on, we just say Mondays are our days. We're going to build a lineup every Monday. Like, I just think having a familiarity with you guys is just going to help so much, and it's going to help the viewers because whether they like my process or they like your process, Gov, or maybe like they just relate so much to Donnie because he's the younger guy in the show. Like they kind of grew up watching him. It's like they're going to get all 3 of our personalities, but we're more comfortable on camera, like in front of. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about making a mistake. I've said it. Jamal Murray wasn't my type of point guard. He won the NBA championship. I still wouldn't take him. There's still a ton of players I'd take over him. If I'm wrong about that, that's just something I was wrong about. It's fine. And I'm willing to make those mistakes because I feel like I make a lot better. You know, I take advantage of my ability to be right more than I worry about being wrong.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we decided to we were naming random players that we just we haven't wanted to give up on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, the player I brought up, we got random news on him out of nowhere last week.
Who's that?
Nyheim Hines. The Bills feel that he can function in all aspects of their offense in this season. Now, it's weird to say that. It's weird to say that, but now I have to give another season and not giving up on the dude.
Can we get
So
okay, Gov? Can we get a Heinz? We got to get a Heinz for Donnie for Rainmaker.
If they make a card of him, which they probably will, we will get a Heinz. I will also say we're definitely getting a James Cook because we're going to have the better running back on that team.
And then I like to think about value guys. So like I would love Miles Sanders. I truly think Miles Sanders could have a top 10 running back season this year. So I'm going to close up shop with that. I want to close up shop with some of your big takeaways, like some of your big predictions maybe for DFS. For me, one of mine is Miles Sanders will be a top 10 running back this year. You guys, if you guys don't got anything past it, like I say,
I think there's going to be an unexpected top 5 wide receiver. Like you guys are thinking Chase, Jefferson, Kupp, maybe DeAndre if he goes somewhere.
Adams,
like Hill. Like you guys are probably thinking those like 6-7 guys. There's going to be. I'm thinking someone.
AJ Brown, Devontae Smith type of guy just pop out of nowhere.
Garrett Wilson, maybe DK Metcalf, maybe like I could see like Debo just going absolutely crazy or something like someone who has the talent, but there's something about the offense or the quarterback or something you don't trust. But then he just ends up being a top 5 wide. Maybe not the best wide receiver. Maybe he's still behind Chase and Jefferson.
Calvin Ridley.
Right, Ridley, something like that. That would be my prediction. Is there's going to be a crazy-ish top 5 wide receiver. Fantasy, DFS, fantasy wide receiver.
Right. Speaking of which, this is why we bring up topics like this.
It could just be DJ Moore catching like 14 touchdowns.
I do think DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley would be great rainmaker ads.
I also, too, if they're cheap, I also like them as like good rainmaker.
Right, 100%.
Good ways to like good guys to start our portfolio with. Maybe we don't get the Mahomes and Kelce's right away. We don't get the Diggs and Allens, the good stacks. We can't get a Burrow Chase right off the bat. But maybe we can pay up for just a Justin Fields, and then Moore's cheap, Komet's cheap. Something like that.
We could get the Allen Hines stack.
Oh, we could definitely do that. Yeah, that's what we might have to do is like go get Josh Allen, but then we might have to buy like Khalil Shakir to go with it.
By the way, can I forecast what I think should be our next show? And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. What if we did a lineup review of our best ball team we drafted, 3 months ago?
I am 100% good for that.
And kind of
I'm down to do that, yeah.
Go through it from a prediction standpoint of like
what went wrong.
We
kind of talked about what went wrong already.
Right.
But
although like even now, like me and Logan have talked about it, it's like compared to what's going on right now in drafts, we got good value on some of our guys. Surprisingly. Even guys we didn't want to take. We ended up getting really good value on them.
Well, I also feel like we missed on some guys. Like I would have loved Michael Thomas, who I think is a good value, but I don't know if you guys do. Like for another one of my examples, Gov, is I think Lamar Jackson's the top 3 quarterback this year. You would probably plug your nose at that.
I'm already like, I bite my thumb at these, sir.
I mean, during my season predictions, I kind of basically predicted that, so I can't.
So that's one of the things where it's like I might believe that, but that would be my personal rainmaker.
Like if we go by Logan's season predictions, maybe it's Michael Thomas that's that top 5 wide receiver.
I truly believe it could be. I mean, I put my money where
there are guys, very talented guys out there who could just have an absolute monster season. Even if it's like Hopkins gone, could Marquise Brown with Kyler Murray have just a monster season? Like I think some crazy, like someone random. Keenan Allen's last good year, maybe like something random but makes sense. We'll have a good like the passing just team's too good in the league for there to not be something good.
Let's try to get this done in 30 seconds here, Donnie. But I'm going to lay out a theory for you, and I want your honest reaction. So some people in baseball are doing this. They're taking an offense they think is going to be good, but they're purposely not stacking up the quarterback. So it's like if you think the Washington Commanders will be so bad that they're going to score a lot of points, you would take a Logan Thomas and Terry McLaurin, but you wouldn't. You think both of the quarterbacks are bad, so you just take the two offenses that you think are going to get like garbage points. Is there anyone like that you're going to target where you're like, hey, I don't like Derek Carr, but I think Michael Thomas and Kamara are good values? Anything like that stick out to you?
Off the top of my head, not really. We could always hit back on that at the start of next show.
I would say Detroit right off the bat. I wouldn't mind like not grabbing Goff, but give me some St. Brown. Get me
a Gibbs.
Get me a Murray. Get me some running game. Get me a St. Brown.
Somebody is going to fill in for Jameson Williams, whether that's Gibbs, whether it's
right.
Marvin Jones, whether you think that's Laporta, like somebody is going to fill in.
Get me I think Detroit would be good. Like I could even see maybe doing Minnesota, grab Jefferson, grab Hawkinson, grab a Madison if he's cheap. Don't worry about Cousins.
I definitely don't think it's a bad strategy. I like the strategy.
Like some of the good offenses that have unproven quarterbacks, like Tennessee. Could we go and grab a fucking Burks and a Henry and not worry about Tannehill or whatever their guy is?
Right. And you just play that maybe Tannehill starts the first 5 games and then they go to Willis, or Levis, because of an injury.
Yeah.
Like you basically play it like Levis isn't the full-time starter, so he doesn't hit value.
Indy would be another good one. You might not grab a Richardson or even use Richardson early. But still,
30 seconds, guys.
Yeah, this is where 30 seconds becomes 5 good minutes.
Good hours. I think Donnie had a point. So let's try to get this one high and tight. There's some forecasting for you, both real season and fantasy. Please like and subscribe. We do put a lot of time and effort into this. We will try to get back with you in a couple of days so we can do more forecasting as we get ready for not only the NFL season, but the DFS season as a whole. Things are going to ramp up very quickly. I'm excited.
This is a good break for everyone. There's no MLB DFS. You have Summer League, which is light. This is a good break time to compress and get ready for an upcoming NFL season.
9 more Sundays.
Ooh.
Let's do it. And I think you honestly cook at this time of the year, Gov. I love your evergreen content, your thought process, your strategy. And I think Donnie brings such a unique newness to it. It's going to be a fun season. So thanks, guys. Good night. Like and subscribe as always. Take care.
Peace out, everyone.